The mop handle trembled in Ion's calloused hands as he bent over the marble floor of the towering Zenith Corporation building. The morning sun poured through the glass panels, reflecting off the pristine floors he'd been scrubbing since dawn. His faded blue cleaner's uniform clung to his tired frame, and his dark hair, still damp with sweat, stuck to his forehead. He moved silently, methodically, like a man who had learned that the world only respected silence, not struggle. Around him the world of luxury and success glittered, a world he once belonged to, but now merely cleaned for. If you believe that kindness and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. It helps us keep telling stories that touch hearts and remind the world that dignity never fades, no matter how deep it's buried. Ion had been working as a janitor for almost 2 years. Once he had been a respected architect, co-founder of an award-winning design firm. But a tragic accident 3 years ago had taken everything: his wife, his reputation, his company, even his confidence. One evening, while driving home from a late meeting, a drunk truck driver had swerved into his car. His wife, Sarah, didn't survive, and though Ion was proven innocent later, rumors spread like wildfire. Investors pulled out. His business partner betrayed him, framing him for negligence, and within weeks, Ion was left bankrupt, broken, and alone with a 6-year-old daughter named Meher. He sold everything: his home, his car, his dreams, and moved into a small apartment on the city's edge. The only job he could find was cleaning office buildings, and so every morning before sunrise, Ion put on his blue uniform, tied his shoelaces tightly, and went to scrub the very kind of places he once designed. The Zenith Corporation was owned by Armin Qureshi, a ruthless billionaire known for his coldness. Armin had built his empire from scratch, but he never forgot to remind others of how far below him they were. The employees feared him, the board adored him, but Ion had no reason to fear or adore him. He just needed to survive another day. That morning, Ion was cleaning the CEO private floor, a space few janitors were allowed to enter. He'd been asked to cover for another cleaner who had fallen sick. As he moved quietly near the massive glass windows overlooking the skyline, the elevator doors opened, and a group of executives stepped out, followed by Armin himself, all sharply dressed, eyes cold as winter steel. "Who allowed this janitor up here?" Armin's voice cut through the air like a blade. The executives froze. I was just asked to clean, sir," Ion said softly, lowering his eyes. "Asked. Do you even understand where you're standing?" Armin snapped, walking closer. "This is not a charity floor. You people come in here thinking you can just wander around where real work happens." Ion stayed silent. The humiliation burned inside him, but he swallowed it. He couldn't afford to lose another job. He needed the paycheck for Meher's school fees. Armin sneered, "Cleaners should know their place. Get out before I have security throw you out." The executives looked away, uncomfortable, but no one spoke up. Ion picked up his bucket and mop, his head bowed low, his throat dry. As he turned to leave, his sleeve lifted slightly, revealing part of a tattoo on his forearm, a small geometric emblem, barely visible under his skin. Armin caught sight of it, his expression shifting for a fraction of a second. That tattoo, he had seen it before. Later that day, while Ion mopped the lower floors, Armin sat in his office, troubled. He couldn't shake the image of that tattoo. It was the signature emblem of Ion Mirza Architects, the firm that had once designed several of the city's iconic landmarks, including Zenith's own headquarters. And Armin remembered, years ago, when Zenith was still a modest company, it was Ion Mirza himself who had designed their first building blueprint. Could it really be him, the fallen architect who disappeared after the scandal? Armin decided to find out. The next morning, Ion arrived at work early as usual. He found Armin already waiting near the lobby, surrounded by bodyguards and assistants. When Ion saw him, he froze, thinking he'd be fired for yesterday. But Armin approached slowly and said, "You, come with me." They entered the top-floor office in silence. Armin turned to face him, his tone less harsh this time. "What's your name?" "Ion." He replied quietly. "Ion what?" "Ion Mirza." The air seemed to thicken. Armin's eyes widened slightly, confirming what he already suspected. "You're that Ion Mirza," he said under his breath, "the architect who vanished after that car accident." Ion simply nodded, his face expressionless. Armin paced, his voice shifting between disbelief and curiosity. "You designed the Zenith Tower. You built half this city. What are you doing here, mopping floors?" Ion took a breath, "Trying to feed my daughter." There was no bitterness in his voice, just a quiet truth that hit harder than anger ever could. For a moment, even Armin was silent. He turned to the window, thinking. "You should have come to me," he finally said. "I would have helped you." Ion smiled faintly. "People don't help those they once looked down upon, Mr. Qureshi. They just watch them fall." That line pierced through the billionaire's pride like a blade of truth. He remembered his own past, the years he'd spent as a street vendor before he made his first million. He had vowed never to be weak again, but somewhere along the way he had forgotten what it meant to have a heart. Armin studied Ion for a long moment, then said, "Come back tomorrow. Don't wear that uniform." The next day, Ion hesitated before entering Zenith Tower. He wore his only clean white shirt and gray pants. When he arrived at the top floor, Armin was waiting again, with several board members and a portfolio. On the large screen behind him, blueprints of an upcoming mega project were displayed. "This," Armin said, turning to the room, "was designed by a genius who forgot his own worth. Meet Ion Mirza, the man who once shaped this city's skyline. From today, he's our new chief design consultant." The room went silent. Ion couldn't move. Tears welled up in his eyes, not because of the job title, but because after years of humiliation, someone finally saw him again. In the weeks that followed, Ion's life began to change. He was given a new office, a fair salary, and most importantly, respect. He redesigned Zenith's next project with passion and brilliance, creating a structure that blended modern art and natural balance, a tribute to his late wife, Sarah. When the project was finally presented, it received standing ovations and international recognition. But what touched people most wasn't just the design, it was the story behind it. Ion's past became public again, but this time the truth spread with it. The man once humiliated as a cleaner was now being celebrated as an artist reborn. One afternoon, Ion stood by the glass window of his office, looking at the city he once thought he'd lost forever. Maher's laughter echoed in his mind, his daughter, now proud of her father again, calling him her hero. He pressed his hand over the tattoo on his arm. It wasn't just ink. It was a scar that told his story. Armin walked in quietly. "You proved me wrong," he said softly. Ion smiled. "No, you gave me a chance to prove myself again." They shook hands, two men who had both learned in different ways that respect means more than power. The sun flooded the office in warm daylight as Ion looked out again, whispering to himself, "Sarah, we did it. If this story touched your heart, please don't leave quietly. Like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal, so we can keep spreading stories of dignity, hope, and second chances that remind us what truly matters. And before you go, comment below. I believe everyone deserves a second chance, because sometimes one act of kindness can rebuild an entire life.